Hello, everybody. Please welcome to the stage Amber Picotte, the Vice President of Marketing at Laika.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Amber Picotte. I'm the VP of Marketing at Laika. It's my first time attending Saastr and first time speaking at Saastr. What I wanted to do today was talk about how when you put your mindset to failing fast to scale fast, how that can help you and how you can use, how you can set and manage ongoing revenue expectations when things are changing very rapidly. So I've built my career. I've built my career in the startup space, and I've had the opportunity to work at startups across a variety of stages of growth, from stealth to pre-IPO. And while every startup is a bit different, there are three questions that marketers always get. One is, how much budget do you need? Two is, how much revenue will you generate? And three is, how fast? And so what I wanted to share today were experiences that I learned across the course of that startup journey that helped me to do two things. One, ensure that I understood what it takes to have the solid foundation to really understand that it's time to rapidly scale that marketing investment. And then two, how can you build processes and processes and what tools can you use to ensure that you can build a plan at the right level of granularity that helps you to manage stakeholder expectations, whether that be with your marketing team, with other executive leadership, or with the board. And so what we'll do today, in a very quick amount of time, is talk about what is that gut check? What do you need to make sure is in place before you really go ahead and ramp? How do you set and manage those revenue expectations? What and how often should you measure? And then I'll give you a couple of examples of how we've failed fast in practice and how that helps us be more agile. So just for a little bit of context, this may be the backdrop you find yourself in, where revenue growth is scaling very quickly. Marketing is contributing to that pipeline acceleration at a pretty high rate. You've got the head count, the go-ahead to go build the team and hire people, and you've got the budget to do what's necessary. And you might think, great, I've got all the pieces that I need, I'm going to go spend. But you shouldn't do that so quickly, because the reality is that you're bringing together new people, new processes, and new channels. And when something has that many variables in it, you need to be cautious about how you predict what revenue you'll be able to generate. So these two pieces may seem a little bit obvious, but they're really important. Before you go and really start to scale the spend, you're going to want to make sure that you have a performance sales team. Are they hitting their quota? Are they doing that regularly? What are the competitive win rates like? Do we know if we bring in more, what's going to come out the bottom from the sales side? And then similarly on the marketing side, you'll want to know your baseline funnel metrics. You don't need to get so caught up on exactly the acronyms that you're measuring. I know that a lot of people have very strong opinions about what to measure and not to measure. What's more important, though, is that you have a partnership with sales and that you're aligned on what you're measuring. Ideally, that you have a bit of runway or history where you've been able to measure those baseline metrics. And ultimately, again, this is about ensuring that if we put more in at the top, do we know what's going to come out the bottom? And then the other two pieces here are equally as important. You're going to want to make sure that you have repeatable customer success. I was lucky early on in my career to have Mark Roberge, who was the former CRO at HubSpot, as an advisor. And he really drilled this in. Whether he knows it or not, it stuck with me. That this is just as important as any other part of the business. If you don't have reliable customer success, and it's not time to scale. And so what we're looking for here ultimately is a net dollar retention of 100% or above for SaaS companies. However, if you're an annual subscription, you can't wait a year to see how that cohort of customers is going to renew. So the trick here is to make sure that you have leading indicators to that renewal success. And so for us at Laika, we watch what are our customers doing, what's the work they're putting in, what's the commitment level that they have during their onboarding period. We know that that's a lead-in to how likely they are to succeed for their milestone, which is a successful SOC 2 audit. If they get to that milestone, they're highly likely to renew. And so we use those leading indicators to understand what our renewal rate is going to look like. And the last piece here is about knowing your runway. If I'm spending high on the marketing side to really grow, how long do I have to spend that way until I need to make sure that I'm producing the revenue that we need to have come in, right? And I know across my experience, I've had a wide variety of transparency into what the cash in the bank looks like. So you don't necessarily need to know the hard and fast details, but in order for it to be a real partnership in growth, you've got to be able to have a conversation about what am I looking for? When might I need to hit the panic button? When might we need to adjust course and make a different plan? So if you've got all those things in place, then it becomes time to build that revenue plan, right? The billion-dollar question. How much revenue will marketing generate? And so the pieces here are important to understand. Has a goal already been communicated, whether that be to the board or to other parts of the organization? Or are you being asked to set that guidance or expectation yourself? And then what other expectations exist within your plan? So a example here that you might not necessarily think about is your sales counterpart building their AE and SDR hiring plan based off of how quickly you're scaling your marketing qualified leads or your sales qualified leads? Are there other triggers that you need to be aware of so that as you're progressing through your plan, if you're on course, off course, above course, you can communicate that in partnership with sales to ensure that those other levers are being paid attention to. So now if you want to model your plan, the first point here, we have 3 points that we'll talk through. The first point here is one that I have used across the entirety of my career. And the other two are pieces that I have, I'd say, learned or tuned through more recent experiences. So the first is building out a channel-by-channel projection for your spend and what you think that channel is going to produce through the funnel. So how much am I going to spend for a lead? How much am I going to spend to drive revenue ultimately? What are my assumptions in every channel? Month by month, quarter by quarter, really kind of rolling up your sleeves and getting into the weeds. It is a lot of work, but what is marketing without a good Excel spreadsheet? Nothing. And so the second piece here, I think, is a filter that I've applied more recently, and I think the value that it helps it with, again, is partnership with your executive leadership team. Brand spend versus demand spend. There are things in marketing that are much more measurable than other things. Being honest and transparent about what your expectations are for what you can reliably build a revenue, or an ROI or revenue plan for, and what you can't, or what's going to be a little bit more squishy. I think having the ability to have that conversation with your board or your founders so that you're aligned on those expectations is really important. And so it's how much of my budget am I willing to put in to channels that I know are going to be important for our growth, but you're going to just have to kind of trust me on it, right? Make sure you're aligned on that. And then this last piece here is really kind of stealing a page from our sales partners playbook. Sales, generally speaking, will provide a high, mid, and low range output for their revenue projections each quarter. There's no reason why marketing can't do this as well, especially when you're building a plan where there's a lot of variables or new pieces. Especially in an uncertain economic climate as well, there are variables, again, that you don't have in your control that you just want to make sure you've modeled a high and a low, again, so that you can guide expectations accordingly. The other piece where this is really valuable is as you're beginning to execute on the plan, if you start to see things going great, wonderful, we're in the high zone, but if you need to adjust course, you've already got a plan, a budget, and a conversation starter that you can use to adjust course. So it is a lot of spreadsheets, for sure. Some of them which are built blood, sweat, and tears with marketing, and some which we've built in partnership with finance. And so when it comes to that high, mid, and low, this is a process that we use in partnership with finance. So we're going to talk about what we measure, how often we measure, and who we get together with to talk about that. And so for us, the high, mid, and low is, again, like I said, something that we've built in partnership with finance. And this is both projected and actual performance. What are we spending? What did we think we were going to spend? What did we think we were going to produce? And we break this out by that brand spend and the demand spend. So again, making sure that we've got the visibility into those buckets of the budget. And we look at this monthly with finance to see how we're doing against these goals, and again, decide if we need to adjust course. On the marketing side, this is where we build the month by month, channel by channel, funnel, all the way through the funnel plan. And this is something that we use both in partnership with sales leadership as well as with the marketing team to talk about how we're doing against our assumptions in particular channels. And so in terms of how frequently we're measuring, on the marketing side with the demand team, we actually pull our data weekly. And we look to see, against the assumptions that we made for funnel growth in each channel, how are we doing? Is the revenue coming in? And are we charting a course towards our goal? We look at that weekly. We also get together and look at that monthly, and we get together and look at that quarterly. And because we have a pretty fast sales cycle, the great part about doing it as frequently as we do is that we can actually spot something early on enough that is performing or isn't performing and make adjustments inside of the same quarter that can affect our ability to drive pipeline. So the frequency is really important, and maybe changes based on the length of your sales cycle. So here's an example of failing fast in action and how looking at this data as often as we do helps us adjust course. This is a little bit tactical, and I will admit that when I showed one of my CEOs this, he said, I don't know, is that cool enough? But I will say, I have had a lot of success using Facebook to target a similar audience historically, but it didn't quite work for us more recently. However, we ran this for a test period for 4 months, advertising on Facebook. We monitored the performance of Facebook against Google and LinkedIn ads, so similar channels. And what we learned was Facebook actually cost us 3 times as much to generate a lead and 15 times as much compared to LinkedIn to generate a lead. But we didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater right away. We actually did some tuning and some optimization. We thought about the audience, we thought about the offer, and we tried it for a period of time. However, we were able to reduce our cost per lead, cut that in half. But when it really came down to it, it was not producing marketing qualified leads. So it wasn't contributing to the funnel in the way that we wanted to see. And we were in a lucky enough position where we knew that we could take those dollars, put them in another channel, and actually impact the pipeline. So that's one tactical example. The other part where this is helpful is in managing your cost profiles. And so, for example, not surprisingly, when you're adding in a bunch of channels and spending a whole lot more, your cost per MQL or your funnel economics can change. And so by having this conversation regularly with finance, you're able to identify if there's a target over the course of time where you may need to bring those cost profiles back down. So it helps both tactically within the marketing organization, but also in partnership with just your budget and ongoing adjustments. All right, so key takeaways. Everybody has a responsibility to spend responsibly. And so even if someone's coming to you and saying, go, 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 spend, 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 you want to make sure that you understand how your marketing funnel performs. You understand how your sales team is performing. You know that you have repeatable customer success. And I forget the fourth one, but it's in there. Just make sure you spend responsibly. Do the hard work up front and develop that channel by channel plan, month by month, right? Really sweat equity on that Excel spreadsheet because it will help you in the long run. And similarly, model that high, mid, and low revenue creation scenarios. So again, if you find yourself in a position where you need to adjust course, you've already had those conversations, you already have a plan. It makes you much more agile and able to turn more quickly. Monitor how it's going in your teams, in the channels, and then share how it's going. So I talk with my sales partner every Monday and share with him how we're progressing towards the goals. We talk with finance every month, talk with the board every month, talk with the founders every month, and share how are we doing, where are our assumptions paying off, or where might we need to adjust course. And then finally, of course, gotta have fun while you're doing it. Thank you so much. Please stop by booth 11 say hi to Laika for a chance to do putt-putt and win a hole-in-one.